but didn't give specific details. Now, all of this comes as sources tell CBS News that the U.S. is weighing possible military action outside Venezuela. The president has already been presented with those potential military plans, and they include strikes on land. In just the last 2 months, the U.S. military has conducted strikes against at least 21 vessels, but there have been 20 strikes so far, with one operation late last month targeting 2 boats. At least 80 alleged smugglers have been killed in those strikes. 2 survived and were sent back to their home countries. Let's go to CBS News Pentagon reporter Eleanor Watson. Ellie, what else did Secretary Hegseth say about this operation?
Well, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, in a tweet, officially named the U.S. military presence in Latin America, calling it Operation Southern Spear, to, quote, remove narco-terrorists from our hemisphere. That is the type of war language characteristic of the Trump administration when it comes to alleged drug smugglers, which is a shift from previous administrations who have largely considered the smugglers as criminals, not combatants. So far, since September...
If they're gonna do that to them, what you think they're gonna do to you? By the way, you're not supposed to be selling drugs anyways. That's against the law. Okay, they call in the scriptures they call it pharmakia. It's under the word witchcraft. Okay, so and thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Well, let me start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Urcha, Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone. I'm your brother, Rabbi Knapp, coming out with this lesson, Lord's will, is edifying to the Lord's elect. And you can see, if they're doing that to them, what do you think they're going to do to you? You know, we're coming down to that time where if you transgress the laws of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, you're gonna get judged.
The U.S. military, as you mentioned, has conducted at least 20 strikes on 21 alleged vessels, killing at least 80 people. Going forward, as part of this operation, CBS reported that earlier this week, the president was briefed on potential options on Venezuela by the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and the top U.S. military officer, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane. And those options included strikes inside Venezuela. If the president gives the order for that option, that would be a major escalation, making good on his threats that those strikes against boats are just the beginning.
You got to think about it, man. You know, the strikes on these boats, did he tell you he was going to strike boats? No, he already did it, then he told you. Okay, he's not going to telling you what he's going to do before he did it. He's probably already striking them. Okay? So we need to come up out of this mindset like this is a possibility. No, these things are already happening.
So the U.S. has ramped up military presence in the region. We know that. In what ways are we seeing an increase when it comes to either troops or even weapons?
Mugo, the meeting earlier this week came as the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, and its 3 escort destroyers were making their way to join the growing footprint already off of Venezuela. Already there are Marine F-35s on Puerto Rico, as well as several destroyers in the Caribbean Sea.
And if you've been watching the news, you'd have known he'd been sent things over there. He's been sent these vessels in the Caribbean months ago. All right, so it was always a step-by-step, all the way up to the point where this was the plan since the beginning. This was well thought out way before, even when he was running. He didn't even tell you about this when he was running for president, that he was gonna do all these things. He ain't gonna tell you shit. He got interests all over the world. You know, and I say that to say, just like you don't know what he's doing over there, you don't know what he's doing in the rest of the world either. So when the situation gets intense out of nowhere, it's going to seem like it's been going on every day. Okay? So we need to be prepared for these things and not be ignorant.
Addition of the Ford carrier strike group, there will be about 15,000 U.S. forces in the Caribbean.
15,000 U.S. forces in the Caribbean, man. He only sent 200 in Gaza. And Gaza seems to be a much more intense situation. But this thing can get out of hand. I already know that Russia sent the Wagner group over there. So there's Russian militants over there in Venezuela. And he's aware of that too. All right. He's aware that they're over there if it's on the news. I don't think it's just about, he's probably trying to back Venezuela, or he could be training them too. And I'm talking about the Russians could be training, because it tells you in Ezekiel 38, he's going to be a guard unto them. Now that's talking about these other nations, but it don't mention Latin America in Ezekiel 38. But it also, the scriptures do talk about strangers. Okay, and which are these foreign nations coming up against Babylon. As a matter of fact, let me finish this and grab that precept.
Largest buildup in that region since really the Cold War.
Okay, Eleanor Watson.
Since the Cold War. The Cuban nuclear missile crisis. What happened during that? The Russians had nukes right at your back door. Now you don't even need to do that. But wherever you move, it's like chess being played in the earth, and he's putting people there, and Esau's putting people in the other places too, to counter what the other person's doing. Let me grab this and what was I thinking about? Strangers. I was thinking about the strangers. Let me grab that precept if I can find it. Blue letter. Strangers. I think it's in Ezekiel. Ezekiel, maybe 20, I can't remember exactly. Ezekiel 28. Let's see, Ezekiel 28 and actually let's start here. Let's start Ezekiel 28. So, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. I think it is Ezekiel 28:7. Thou shalt die the deaths of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord Yahweh. And I will make the rivers dry and sell the land into the hand of the wicked, and I will make the land waste and all that is therein by the hand of strangers. I, the Lord, have spoken it. Ezekiel 31:12. And strangers, the terrible of the nations, have cut him off and have lifted him upon the mountains and in the valleys. His branches are fallen and his boughs are broken by all the rivers of the land, and all the people of the earth are gone down from his shadow and have left him. I believe that's going into the parable of the tree. Let's see what this is talking about, as a matter of fact. Ezekiel 31:12 describes the downfall of a mighty empire, symbolized by a great cedar tree, as it is cut down and left by the most ruthless foreign nations. The verse paints a picture of total destruction, with broken branches and boughs scattered across the land, and all the people who had previously sought shelter under its shadow now abandoning it. And this is what we're starting to see. Foreigners, the most ruthless of nations, have cut it down and left it. This signifies the external powers, likely the Babylonians, are responsible for destroying the once powerful kingdom symbolized by the tree, which in the broader context of Ezekiel 31 refers to Egypt. But in this context, the Lord using other heathens to take down another heathen nation. Okay, so the Lord, that's in his, that's the type of things he'll do. On the mountain and in the valleys, its branches have fallen, and its boughs have been broken in all the ravines of the land. This imagery represents the widespread and complete ruin of the fallen empire, with its branches scattered everywhere, and all the people of the earth have gone away from its shadow and left it. This line highlights the abandonment of the empire by its allies, tributaries, and those who once depended on its power and protection. And we're going to see that. We're starting to see that, man. Okay, let's see what this says in Ezekiel 28:7. Ezekiel 28:7, meaning, signifies God's judgment on the king of Tyre for his extreme pride and self-exaltation, stating that foreigners, the most ruthless of nations, would be brought to conquer and destroy his kingdom, defiling his splendor. The verse emphasizes that the king's own wisdom and glory, which led him to believe he was a god, would be the very things that are destroyed by his enemies, acting as instruments of divine retribution. Historically, this was fulfilled by the Babylonians and other invaders, but it also serves as a broader spiritual lesson about the downfall that results from human arrogance and a rejection of God's authority. But behold, therefore, I'll bring strangers upon thee. Now, as for the invading of the land, I don't really see an invasion. I'm more seeing maybe T attacks all over the place. You know, a ramp up of just society. But you went in there. You know, society don't want you to. People are gonna be going against you just because you even went in there without, you know, the backing of your country. So if you try to start sending troops over there and get people to try to join the military to go fight in a war that they don't want to be involved in, that's going to cause a lot of chaos. Okay? Especially if you don't have the support of the people. Ezekiel 28:10, thou shalt die the deaths of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord Yahweh. And we know this is talking about Esau. And it's ultimately going to happen with foreign nations. But even when you go up against these smaller nations, Marco Rubio was talking about how these proxy groups, they're worse than before. They're on a level of countries now with some of their attacks, and the way they're doing things isn't, these ain't no low level T's that you can go and get rid of them. They're high level, they're very sophisticated, and that's going to cause a lot of issues. Don't think they can't shut down things, create a situation where, especially with AI, they got the capability to do a lot of damage with the least amount of people. Okay, they got access to things that, especially like in a situation where I've heard one plan was, especially, for example, there was one T attack in, I forgot what state, but they started a whole forest fire. And then when the firefighters went and got there, they started shooting at the firefighters and the police. So while that's happening, a whole other situation could happen. And that's the times that we're living in. Okay? You shall die the death of the uncircumcised by the hand of foreigners, for I have spoken, it says the Lord Yahweh. This verse is part of a prophecy against the proud and corrupt ruler of Tyre, who was depicted as once being a perfect guardian cherub. The prophecy announces his downfall, predicting he will die a humiliating death at the hands of outsiders, a consequence of his sin and pride. Yeah, you're going to be going up against people. He be mocking them. He was mocking North Korea for years. Oh, that missile can't come over here. It's too fat. They're too dumb to send it over here. And ever since then, his nuclear arsenal has been increasing the whole time while he was running his mouth. Prophecy subject, the verse is addressed to the king of Tyre, who had grown arrogant from his wisdom, wealth, and power. As a matter of fact, look what this devil did, man. Wants to celebrate Victory Day.